Before the cuffs.
Code 37, stolen vehicle.
Before the manhunt starts.
Copy. Where you at?
Before the guns are even loaded. This is how it begins. One of the most state-of-the-art police systems originates here, with a stack of paper and a black and green screen.
It's the data that matters and how it's crunched by a multi-million-dollar program to predict crime.
Just any weapon or equipment directly.
Roll call in almost every major police precinct usually sounds a little like this.
Reminder to everyone about finding the dominant aggressor for domestic violence.
But here, in one of the busiest police stations in the country, Rampart Division in downtown Los Angeles, you'll also hear something else.
2A17, Howarth and Zizzo. You guys have Predpol?
Predpol is a predictive policing computer program. Zoom in on the desk and you see what it's all about. Those little boxes, they show exactly where the computer predicts crimes will happen in the future. Zones that were drawn up not by a person, but by an algorithm. Here's how it works.
The data that Predpol has for our particular division, Rampart, in 10 boxes we decided.
Captain Jeff Nolte runs the LAPD's Rampart Division.
Can you dial in and show us?
Yeah, absolutely. So this right here is a view on the computer of what is sent to our officers every morning about 1:30 a.m. from Predpol. The officers are given this paper printout. The boxes are 500 square feet, so they are very small. The beauty is that we don't have to have somebody working crime analysis looking at all the trends, reading all the reports, suspect information, victim, and developing profiles. It's automatically given to us.
So when you want to put their information in, you fill it all out?
It's a machine learning algorithm
that analyzes several years' worth of crime reports, like these.
The principle? Crime isn't random. It follows a pattern. And if your math is good enough, you can be there when crime happens.
I'm like 2 blocks out.
Or better yet, before.
It should be on the other side of this intersection here.
On this shift, we will spend time in, or touch as the officers say, several of the division's 10 Predpol boxes with Sergeant Dave Rich.
We've reached the first box, a residential neighborhood in the middle of downtown LA.
So it just looks like any other neighborhood?
Correct. Okay, so this area across the street from us right here has been identified as a problem area.
Rampart Division only uses Predpol to analyze property crime. And according to today's report, there's a good chance someone will try to steal something somewhere around here sometime soon.
You're driving through areas where it has been identified as problematic. Sometimes you could just get flagged down. You can turn the corner, you can roll right into a robbery in progress, or there could be some sort of an altercation. All right, so what are we working on? What do we got?
We get a 273.5 from the detectives.
Okay. How long ago did this happen?
Yesterday.
For law enforcement agencies, you can see the appeal.
He could be hiding out over there. Okay. Yep.
It makes sense to deploy resources where they're the most likely to do the most good.
Is there any evidence that this actually works?
So that's actually a harder question than you would think.
Vancouver-born sociologist Sarah Brain spent 2 years here inside the LAPD headquarters, studying its use of predictive analytics.
I think it's too early to say if it does lead to more effective policing, but I think it has the potential to, yes, because there is the efficiency aspect of it, where if you're allocating resources to where crime is actually occurring rather than sort of biased perceptions of where crime might be occurring, that's a good thing.
But those who worry most about those biased perceptions wonder, can you trust the algorithm if you don't trust the police? Because there's another, even more controversial component to predictive policing. One that can be used to predict not only where crimes will be committed, but also by whom, based on a scoring system. You get 5 points if you're in a gang, on parole, on probation, been arrested with a handgun, or for a violent crime, and 1 point for every time you've been stopped by the police in the last 2 years. Every 3 months, the computer spits out a list of about 20 people, the chronic offender master list. Everyone on that list is sent this letter from the chief of the LAPD urging them to change their ways. With the letter comes a list of community service providers, and at the end, a final wish from the chief. Good luck.
We offer those resources to those folks and give them a way out.
Officers are assigned to check in on these chronic offenders and take any legal opportunity to stop them. We shared a recent chronic offender bulletin with Sarah Brain.
If individuals have these certain points values already, and then officers are encouraged when they're out on patrol to go out, stop, and talk to these individuals to continue gathering intelligence and further increase their point score, thus justifying their continued stopping day after day, it essentially turns into this cycle where it's impossible to escape.
You want everything?
That's why, in some communities, there's a growing fear. If the information fed into the computer models is biased, then the police data could become almost as dangerous as their guns. Baldwin Village, better known as the Jungle. According to LAPD statistics, it's one of the most crime-ridden areas in the city. For years, to help crack down on gangs, the LAPD has relied on official lists of known and suspected gang members.
You're on that list.
Yes.
Yeah. So what effect do you think it would have for you to be put on something like a frequent offender list, or?
I mean, marginalization. It would discourage me from thinking anything higher of myself. Like,
in the Jungle, we met up with several people who ended up on those gang lists, even though they say they weren't and never have been gang members, like Anthony Robles. Growing up, he wondered why police always seemed to be stopping him whenever they saw him on the streets.
One time they put me in the back of a police car, and as they're running my name in their little computer in the car, I'm watching them as they're doing it, and my file comes up. I seen it said gang associate, tagging crew, affiliate or something like that, and I was like, wow, so this is why they're always harassing me, because they think I'm part of a gang.
Now, some community groups are fighting back.
So it's when you get stopped by an officer, he takes down your name, what you look like.
Based in an area called Skid Row, the Stop LAPD Spying Coalition was founded to oppose police oppression and intelligence gathering.
So who is Predpol going to target?
we already know.
Operation Laser.
Now, volunteer Jamie Garcia is trying to warn the local community about the dangers of predictive policing.
By driving algorithms and risk assessments with data that somehow policing is becoming more effective, efficient, and fair. And I think that's really problematic because it's trying to mask policing how it's always historically been, which is impacting the Black and brown communities.
Look closely at this list. Almost everyone on it is a minority.
The suspects are probably going to look like the population. If you're taking the position that minorities are paranoid that Predpol is going to put a bunch of officers in one area in a box, you know, I would argue that's part of what we should do. We have some information that we think this place is at risk, we should go there. But we shouldn't just use enforcement and suppression.
Essentially right now, all of the new surveillance technologies and tools that can collect data on all of us, not just people who have direct police contact, that technology is moving so much faster than the laws and regulations to govern that activity. And so as such, it's kind of this like legal and regulatory Wild West.
Do you think that eventually we'll see these types of tools be used in Canada?
I think that we will, but I think in this instance, actually Canada being a little bit behind the US in certain ways might be a benefit rather than a drawback.
53 and relative female with mental illness in Rockport.
Back on the beat in yet another Predpol box, an arrest for robbery.
1240, Roger. Broke into the apartment complex and stole a car. Started showing me all this.
Supporters of predictive policing hope that one day it will prevent thefts like this.
It's all for fighting? Every single time you've been in jail,
Activists fear that, if left unchecked, eventually we might all have our own police file, our own score. Kim Brunhuber, CBC News, Los Angeles.
Now, Canadian police are aware of the tools being used by the U.S. because police share best practices across the border all the time. The Vancouver police are perhaps closest to what the LAPD are doing. Vancouver uses the technology to predict property crimes. In Saskatoon, police use similar algorithms to identify youth at risk, hoping that by identifying them, then helping the young people will be a different kind of crime prevention. No one in Canada is doing anything to the same extent as LA, but that could be coming.